Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Give me a break.
Bitch, move it along.
On the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We've made it. We have made it to Friday. We are here. Yes, Friday show. Gonna be a great show. Tucker Carlson versus Jon Stewart. Oh, here we go. We have Lauren Boebert spreading nonsense about, well, monkeypox in this case. But so medical misinformation. We have Mike Pillow back on the show. We got Pillow Talk today. I'm sure you're all very excited to hear that. We have Elon Musk actually making a good point. Oh my God, I agree with Elon Musk about something. So this is a strange day. CPAC. You're going to love the CPAC story. I'm not going to spoil it here, but trust me, you're going to absolutely love that CPAC story. We have, of course, an update on the, what is it? The inflation bill or the reconciliation bill that they have. What's going on there? Well, not good. So we'll get into that, into those details here. Apologize if I'm a little bit out of it today. I'm having some pretty bad neck pain, and so, my head's a little foggy today, but we're going to do this. We're going to do this Friday show. So let's get to it. Jeff's been agreeing with a lot of odd folks these days. These are strange times. Strange times, folks. Very, very, very strange. Let's just say that, okay? Anyway, why don't we dive into this first segment here? We have Jon Stewart versus Tucker Carlson. Hey, pushing the wrong buttons here. Neck pain and malaise here too. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's been bothering me the last few days. Tucker Carlson is very salty over Jon Stewart getting a win for veterans on Tuesday. The PAC Act passed through the Senate after a shame campaign led by the comedian forced Republicans to vote for the measure without being able to add any of those poison pills that Republicans wanted to add into it. Now, the bill actually expands health care to veterans exposed to chemicals released by toxic burn pits in Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as those who were exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam. So this is something that we should be celebrating. We should be celebrating the fact that, you know, we have the PAC Act, and we're actually helping out and keeping our promise to the veterans. I may be an opponent of course, our militarism and our imperialism here at home, but that doesn't mean the soldiers are at fault. If anything, they're the cannon fodder being thrown into the corporate shredder in order to help these companies make billions and billions of dollars in profit and secure resources. If anything, they're the victims here, and we at least have a promise to honor these veterans that have gone through the meat grinder. So now, instead of lauding this as a victory, again, for the veterans that people like Tucker Carlson claim to care about, they allege to care about, instead he used this out as an opportunity to go after his old nemesis, Jon Stewart.
That's Jon Stewart? The famous Jon Stewart looks like a homeless mental patient. He's shrieking and disheveled and very short, really short, too short to date. Was he always that short? What happened? Where's he been the last 7 years? If you know, let us know. We want answers.
We want answers. We want answers. Well, we have answers for you. He's actually been, I don't know, trying to get things done, trying to do things for veterans and first responders to 9/11. But before I get into that, I love how the man who claims to be against the elites, right, and for the average person and for the veterans and all that stuff, then attacks a person who's actually been standing up and trying to help veterans. Now, look, this goes back to Tucker Carlson, Jon Stewart being able to get under Tucker Carlson's skin so well that even the mask, Tucker's mask, that he has been working on for decades, that mask has slipped. And he forgets how he's supposed to be a champion for veterans and real Americans, which in reality, he's a champion for white nationalists. But look at all the activism for first responders that Jon Stewart has actually done. He's successfully used his standing and his platform, his fame to shame Congress into passing bills to help 9/11 first responders, to help them get health care, and now, of course, this veterans bill. This is while Tucker has been sitting on his millions of dollars and refusing to do a damn thing for veterans. Now, Tucker Carlson, I would argue that he knows that he's a fraud. He knows exactly who he is. And he also knows that Jon Stewart has always had his number. And for that, I'm going to go back to the famous clip from 2004. We're going to watch a little bit of the owning that Jon Stewart gave to Tucker Carlson all the way back in 2004. And it's to illustrate why Tucker is still so incredibly salty.
We need help from the media, and they're hurting us. And it's now, the idea is
if the indictment. Let me get this straight. If the indictment is, and I have seen you say this, that Crossfire reduces everything, as I said in the intro, to left, right, black, white.
Yes.
Well, it's because, see, we're a debate show. It's like saying the
no, that'd be great.
To a storm
I would love to see a debate show.
In a 24-hour day where we have each side on as best we can get them.
That would be great.
And have them fight it out.
To do a debate would be great, but that's like saying pro wrestling is a show about athletic competition.
I think you're a good comedian. I think your lectures are boring. Let me ask you a question on the news.
Now, this is theater. I mean, it's obvious. How old are you?
35.
And you wear a bow tie.
Yeah, I do. I do.
So this is...
No, I know.
So
you're right. No, let me just go. No, come on.
And listen, I'm not suggesting that you're not a smart guy, because those are not easy to tie. But the thing is that you're doing theater when you should be doing debate, which would be great.
No, it's
not honest. What you do is not honest. What you do is partisan hackery.
You
Why
have
I
John
know
Kerry
it.
on your show, and you sniff his throne, and you're accusing us of partisan hackery?
Absolutely.
You've got to be kidding, man.
You're on
and you literally
CNN.
say,
The show that leads into me is puppets making crank phone calls. What is wrong with you? The interesting thing that I have is you have a responsibility to the public discourse. And you
need to get
fail
a job at a journalism
miserably.
school, I think.
You need to go to one. The thing that I want to say is, when you have people on for just knee-jerk, reactionary talk.
Wait, I thought you were going to be funny. Come on, be funny.
No, I'm not going to be your monkey. Go ahead. I watch your show every day, and it kills me.
I can tell you love it.
It's so painful to watch. You know, because we need what you do. This is such a great opportunity you have here to actually get politicians
really Jon
off
Stewart? What
of
is
their
this
marketing
anyway?
and strategy. Yeah, it's someone who watches your show and cannot take it anymore.
I mean, just the complete and utter dismantling of, again, the Crossfire, but Tucker Carlson took it very, very seriously. He no longer wore the bow tie after that. The guy got shamed out of a bow tie. Look, that's had to have been one of the most embarrassing moments of Tucker Carlson's career. Paul Begala, nobody cares about him. Basically, non-issue, barely even there. Okay, nobody cares about him. That's legendary. That video right there. And Tucker Carlson has spent the last almost 20 years fuming about it. Behind the scenes. He is never, look, his personality, the hit to his ego I don't think it's ever recovered. Now, sure, Tucker Carlson is very, very successful. He's arguably way more famous than Jon Stewart. He's actually the most watched news personality in America on the highest rated channel in America. He is incredibly successful and wealthy career-wise. And yet, and again, more so than Jon Stewart, honestly, he's got millions and millions of people that watch him every single day. But it doesn't matter. Tucker Carlson is so incredibly insecure because he was found out exposed for the fraud that who he is by Jon Stewart, masterfully dismantled by Jon Stewart all the way back in 2004. That he has to, go after him personally. He can't help himself. He really can't. So that's the situation. Now, of course, Jon Stewart responded to being called disheveled, right? And here's what he said, quote, "Friends, tonight I am sad. Tucker Carlson believes me too short to date. And yet somehow, miraculously, I remain tall enough to not know what Viktor Orban's ass tastes like. Is it goulash, Tucky? Seems like it would be goulash." Oh, that's so good. And again, that's in response to him literally, not literally, but brown-nosing a fascist. Viktor Orban is the fascist leader of Hungary, which has seen democracy get demolished. That's the kind of country that Tucker Carlson wants the United States to be. Now, I wish that was the end of it, but no. You had another, since Tucker Carlson got so easily dismantled by this, Ben Shapiro had to jump in. And I love this. This is what he tweeted. "Always remember, accusing your opponents of homosexual activity is a slur. It's totally fine as long as you're on the left and your opponent is on the right." Don't tell me that you understand the difference. Okay? Do you know what brown nosing is? You can't say that you don't understand the difference between homosexual activity, which is totally fine, and brown nosing, which everybody hates. Don't tell me you don't know the difference, Ben Shapiro. I thought you were supposed to be smart. I thought you were supposed to be the leader of the intellectual dark web. Don't tell me you don't understand that. Again, homosexual activity, totally fine, based, it's great. Brown nosing, terrible. Nobody likes a brown noser. And of course, Tucker Carlson, one of the biggest brown nosers on TV, especially when he does it to fascists. All right. Moving on. Let's go to terrible people. We've got the cavalcade of clowns here today. So let's go to Lauren Boebert. Representative Lauren Boebert believes that monkeypox has been made up to influence the midterm elections.
And we know exactly what causes this monkeypox, and they're not doing anything. No, actually, you're a bigot if you talk about it. Right. And I think it's interesting. We have midterm elections coming up, and suddenly there's a new health emergency from the federal government.
Okay, does she not understand what a health emergency declaration actually does? Honestly, no. The answer, of course, is clearly no. Here's what it does. It gives the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra, more discretion in accessing additional funding. That's it. Funding and resources in order to deal with the outbreak, as the government's supposed to do, including personnel in order to combat the spread of monkeypox. It also allows for more testing. It funds more testing. It increases the access to vaccines among especially the most vulnerable groups. Now, it's important to note, she says, well, if you talk about it, you're a bigot. Well, actually, it depends on how you talk about it. Now, right now, the most vulnerable groups here are healthcare workers, which is obvious, but also homosexual and bisexual men who have sexual relations with males. That's just how the numbers bear it out. Okay. Now, again, what's important to note here is that monkeypox is not an STI. But right now, the numbers are bearing out that those three groups are the most vulnerable. That doesn't mean other groups aren't. So now it just happens to be spreading the most quickly among those groups. However, monkeypox, anyone in close contact with a person who has monkeypox can get it, can spread it. And so according to the CDC, for example, monkeypox can spread to anyone through close, personal, often skin-to-skin contact, including direct contact with monkeypox rash, with the scabs, bodily fluids, or from a person that has monkeypox, touching objects, fabrics, clothing, bedding, towels, and surfaces that have been used by someone with monkeypox, and contact with respiratory secretions from, for example, prolonged face-to-face contact. A pregnant person can also spread monkeypox through to their fetus through the placenta. And so, look, it can also be spread, obviously, from contact with infected animals, scratched or bitten, or by preparing or eating meat or using products from the infected animal. And so there's different ways, but generally it is through touch. And so you have to be cautious, right? Now, finally, a person with monkeypox can also spread it to others from the time symptoms start until the rash is fully healed and a fresh layer of skin has formed. And that typically lasts, of course, about 2 to 4 weeks. So now that's important because it's important to tell people the facts. Okay. And so the reason, of course, that it's important to tell people the facts so that irrational fear does not take over. Okay. Now, there are reactionaries here. And again, she talks about the bigots, right? Oh, I can't talk about this without being a bigot. Well, again, it depends on the framing, right? And you can point out that fact and say, okay, here's how to protect yourself. But what Lauren Boebert and also Marjorie Greene have come out and said is, oh, it's a gay disease. No, it's not. Anyone can get it. I mean, you're literally redoing the AIDS thing. Again, Ronald Reagan actually refused to do a medical emergency for AIDS. Millions of people. I mean, they ended up getting this. And there wasn't treatment. He ignored it, the epidemic. And now these same Republicans want to do the same thing. And so, yes, this is a serious thing. Now, should everybody be afraid of it? No. Should everybody be cautious? Of course. Of course. But they're just segmenting it to, oh, it's the gays. So they are, by definition, doing bigotry. So let's be fair about that, because that's the reality of the situation. All right. So now, again, reactionaries are also claiming that people who don't want to know more about or who do want to know more about the virus so they can take precautions against contracting or spreading it, are only doing it out of fear, which again is pretty ironic. No, protecting yourself and your family, that's logical. You don't want to get it because it probably sucks. Who wants to deal with somebody like that with monkeypox? No, I mean, look, you have to stay home from work. You're not going to be able to make money. You can't touch anybody for like a month. No, it's ridiculous. It sounds very annoying to deal with. And yes, there are people that can even die from this. I don't want to deal with that. I got shit to do. Honestly, I don't want to get sick. And so, yes, I do want to protect myself. And I want to know the details of what, is how it spreads and how to best protect myself. And so it's called being smart, intelligent. It is not called being bigoted towards a group of people. Okay? But here's the thing. Boebert's a reactionary. She doesn't care about facts. She doesn't care about people protecting themselves. No, what she wants to do is spread conspiracy theories for her own political gain. And that's it. She also hates gay people. We've already, I also, as I mentioned, Marjorie Greene called it a gay disease. In fact, here's her quote on this, and it is absolutely disgusting. Quote, "Of course, monkeypox is a threat to some people in our population, but we know what causes it. It's basically a sexually transmitted disease, so it doesn't affect most of the population." That's what Marjorie Greene said. Now, that's factually wrong, but she doesn't even, that's not even the worst part of it. She said, quote, "People have to laugh at it, mock it, and reject it. It's another scam." Another scam. No, these people are gross. Now, is it likely to affect the majority of the population? Not necessarily. And you know what? If the government actually does their job the way that they're supposed to, then it won't affect the majority of the population, because the government is supposed to protect the majority. And so that's what they're doing. This is what the emergency declaration is all about. It's literally their job. But of course, people like Marjorie Greene and Lauren Boebert, they don't care about their job. Because remember, they're also in Congress. They're also supposed to protect the American people, but they don't. And it pisses me off, and it should piss off everyone, the fact that they don't actually care enough about their fellow Americans to do their job. No, the only reason that they're there is to spread hate and division and to help themselves. Okay. All right, moving on. The clowns continue. Mike Pillow is once again raging against the machine, which means it's time for Pillow Talk.
God gave me this platform. I already know I'm going to win. China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy. But you haven't. Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell is at CPAC, and he believes that the world is at war with the machines and is somehow losing. Take a look.
And this is very important you hear me on this. Over 54 countries have now been taken by the machines, or are getting taken by the machines. And you never get to go back. Venezuela, Australia, they're gone. You don't get to vote out the machines once they're there. Once they're there, you don't get your country back.
The machines, they're gone. They're gone. The machines, they've taken over, folks. They've taken over. Just like in Venezuela, you know, just like there.
In Venezuela.
They're taking over. This is the end. You're never gonna get your country back. It's gone. It's gone. No, insane. This guy's off the rails. Obviously, Australia's still there. It's not gone. Venezuela is still there. It's not gone. It's not been taken over by the machines. Okay? No, these people are insane. They're just absolutely nuts. And this guy's out here saying, "We're under attack." No, we're not under attack by machines. And look, let me give you the details of why. So now he's talking about the voting machines, of course. He's not talking about Skynet, at least I don't think so. I guess I don't really know, you know what I'm saying? But okay, assuming he's talking about the voting machines, right? Well, there's absolutely no evidence that the voting machines had flipped from Trump to Biden in the 2020 election. You know why? Because they had a chance to prove it and they didn't present any evidence. They didn't even make the argument. In one Pennsylvania federal case, for example, Giuliani started his opening saying that there was widespread nationwide voter fraud. However, under questioning from the judge, he's like, I didn't actually mean that. Oh, then what did you mean? Then what's this case about? And he told the judge, quote, "This is not a fraud case." Then what is it? Then why are you out here wasting our time, Rudy? What are you doing? Now, there's more. In a separate state case in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, a judge had asked a Trump lawyer, Jonathan Goldstein, whether he was alleging election fraud, voter fraud. His response is, "Your Honor, accusing people of fraud is a pretty big step. And it is rare that I call somebody a liar, and I am not calling the board of the DNC or anybody else involved in this a liar. Everyone is coming to this with good faith." Good faith. Yes, very, very good faith. Sure. Now, the judge had pressed Goldstein to answer a very specific question, which is, are you claiming that there is any fraud in connection with these 592 disputed ballots? To which Goldstein had replied, quote, "To my knowledge, at present, no." So it's not about fraud. Wasn't about fraud at all. In Maricopa County, Trump campaign attorney Corey Langhofer told the judge, quote, "We are not alleging fraud in this lawsuit. We are not alleging anyone stealing the election." Oh, weird. It seems like this whole thing is not even about fraud. What is it about then? No, it's about wasting time. Now, that same lawyer said, instead, the case concerned a limited number of cases of good faith errors in operating machines. Oh, the operating machines. Now, do errors happen? Of course they do. We're dealing with machinery. If it can go wrong, it probably will. We're dealing with Murphy's Law here when it comes to technology. And not just technology, but I guess anything else. That's not the same as fraud. There's nothing about fraud. And by the way, that same lawyer, Corey Langhofer, dropped that case. In Nevada, the Trump campaign filings questioned the use of a scanning machine to verify the signatures, okay, and whether observers had proper access to observe vote counting. But there was nothing about widespread fraud. So those are just some of the examples, and there were many. They had over 60 court cases, and it all played out the same way. Not alleging fraud, because they didn't have any evidence to make those allegations. Why didn't they? Again, they knew they couldn't prove it, and because they had no evidence to prove this, they didn't present it because, well, they would get laughed out of court, or worse, because if they lied under oath, that would have serious repercussions in court. So now here's the thing though, Lindell, Mike Pillow's not in court. So Mike Pillow can go and make all of these grandiose, insane statements, as many as he wants, without any sort of repercussions. For the reason, of course, is making money. He wants to make money off people who have already bought into this insanity. And they, of course, buy into it because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel good because, oh, I didn't actually lose. It was stolen from me. I didn't actually lose because our ideas or our candidate was just terrible. No. We lost because it was them. It wasn't us. We didn't lose it. No, our ideas are fantastic. Everybody loves them. Except, of course, poll after poll shows that, no, they really don't. They actually like more progressive ideas. No, these people, they're just hanging on because they don't want to admit that they lost an election fair and square. And again, a lot of that comes from Trump himself, the people around him, and those who are also making money from this, like Mike Pillow. All right. Moving on. Promo code T800. Oh, geez. Not T1000? Maybe that's the next one. Okay. Anyway. It's hard to break away from a cult. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fun fact, Mike Pillow only accepts speaking fee payments in the form of a canvas sack full of coke. That's not a fact, but, you know, that's not outside the realm of possibility. Just saying. Let's go to the next story. Let's actually give some odd credit to Elon Musk. What is this? WNBA star Brittany Griner. Let me start that again. I always get her name wrong. I think Grenier, and then I think of Warframe for some reason. WNBA star Brittany Griner was recently sentenced by a Russian judge to 9 years in prison for possessing about 0.7 grams of medicinal cannabis oil that she was prescribed in the United States. So that's almost like that's basically a cartridge. Okay. So now, that sentence led to outrage and condemnation by many, of course, mainly on the left, whereas many on the right appear to have been okay with the actions of the Russian government. Gee, I wonder why. Would it have something to do with the fact that Griner is a black lesbian? Gee, I don't know, because I keep seeing these comments where right-wingers are saying things like, oh, you know, she did the crime. She's got to do the time. Now, here's the thing. I believe that Russia is holding Griner as a political prisoner in order to facilitate a prisoner swap. And I am actually in favor of doing a prisoner swap. Well, we'll get to that. But upon the announcement of the sentence, President Biden put out this statement. I actually think it's a pretty strong statement. They said, Russia is wrongfully detaining Brittany. It's unacceptable, and I call on Russia to release her immediately so she can be with her wife, loved ones, friends, and teammates. Again, for Biden, that's strong. Okay. Adding that he will work tirelessly and pursue every possible avenue to free Griner and security consultant Paul Whelan, who is also, of course, in Russia. So, look, that's good. I would hope so. I think they need to be brought home. Now, interestingly enough, Elon Musk weighed into this. And by the way, it's not because he wanted to, but he was asked a question, to be fair. And so he was asked a question about what he thinks about the situation. And honestly, he didn't have a bad answer. Take a look.
You know, if the president's working so hard to sort of free someone who's in jail in Russia for some weed, then shouldn't we free people
That's what Joe
in
just
America?
said. I saw that.
Who, yeah,
absolutely.
Joe
It's
Rogan
it's
said
there
that,
are
yeah.
people in jail in America
For the same shit.
for the same stuff. Shouldn't we free them too? It
pretty
seems
Of course,
like
this is something that's legal in so many states right now, as well. It's
I
not
mean,
like
I think it's like for it's not. I mean, my opinion is that people should not be in jail for nonviolent drug crimes.
Wow. Hey, look, when he's right, he's right. I mean, that's rare, but yes, we should let people out who have been, sentenced for nonviolent drug crimes in the United States. Hey, and do you know who could do that? Joe Biden. He could do that today. He could absolutely do that today. In fact, an analysis published by the Congressional Research Service, and this was published last year, found that the president could order executive agencies to consider either altering the scheduling of marijuana or changing their enforcement approach. Now, that includes having federal officials start a process to completely remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act, which would not require additional action from Congress. So he can do that. He can order these agencies to begin work on removing it without having to go to Congress. Now, furthermore, the Congressional Research report noted that the president could use his pardon powers to either individually or on a mass scale grant clemency to those facing charges over federal marijuana offenses. And that blanket amnesty could also apply to people who have committed but have not yet been charged with a federal cannabis crime. So, look, yes, he could absolutely do that today. Can't do it through a direct executive order, but he can order his agencies to begin work on doing that. And so, great. Why doesn't he? He should absolutely start doing so. And I'll give you more of the reasons why. But first, you might be asking, okay, look, that's all fine and good. And I agree with that. But how does that help Brittany Griner? She's in Russia. Okay, doing something here is not going to help her. I get it. And sure, it doesn't. But it doesn't help her directly, but it could help the millions of people in this country who are put behind bars for the same crime of possession that Griner is sitting in a Russian prison for. It also helps in the messaging. Now, it helps to, I guess, alleviate some of the charges of hypocrisy, because certainly Russia could say, oh, you want us to release this prisoner for marijuana, but you lock up millions of people all the time for cannabis. Why should we do that? Okay, fair enough. Now, if the Biden administration were to do this, not only would it be incredibly popular, because most of the American people think that cannabis should be legalized anyway, this also would give the Biden administration the moral high ground. There's no lose in this situation. It's a win-win. It's a slam dunk. So just do it. But again, the whole moral victory, all this stuff, that's, to me, less important, okay? I think we should do this just for the fact that it's going to help so many people. So many people. It's the right thing to do. Now, for Griner, now that she's been sentenced, there is a little bit of a possible bright spot. Now, it looks like the Russians, they might be ready for a prisoner swap. Now, of course, they weren't going to do anything before or while the trial was going on. They wanted to hit her with a pretty heavy sentence in order to get their leverage. So this is the country versus country. Oh, leader versus leader. I got leverage here. So I'm going to be able to go and demand through diplomacy what I want. And so this is hopefully a good example of two countries coming in together and saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to do diplomacy and we're going to do this prisoner swap. Great. Now, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov reportedly said on Friday, that's today, that Moscow was, quote unquote, ready to discuss a prisoner swap. And that it was revealed on Wednesday of this week. I'm sorry, it was revealed today that on Wednesday, the United States has already put forward an offer to swap for Griner. In fact, the possible swap would be Griner and Whelan for Victor Bout. Now, Victor Bout happens to be a notorious arms dealer known as the Merchant of Death. Okay. Well, I mean, look, let me disagree with that name. I really think the United States should have that moniker because we are the we are the arms dealer of the world. Do you know how many weapons we sell? Billions and billions of dollars worth of weapons. I mean, billions just to Ukraine, not to mention all the other places. We're the world's biggest arms dealer. So, okay, letting this little tiny small fry go, it's not really going to have much of an impact. Okay? Not much of a negative impact. Okay? Now, another person that could be involved here is an unnamed Russian who was convicted of murder in Germany that is currently serving a life sentence for that murder. I don't exactly like it, but you know what? I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it. If that's the offer, if that's the deal, let's get on it. Let's do it. Okay. Again, we're the #1 arms dealer. We're not afraid of the competition. And by the way, if we oppose like letting this guy go because oh my God, he's what a horrible arms dealer, merchant of death. Well, again, we don't have a leg to stand on that one. So I guess that's another messaging thing, right? So look, I also don't give a damn about Putin being able to use this as a domestic political win. I don't really care. Honestly, that's not a big deal to me. No, what's a big deal to me is getting back an American citizen who was wrongfully used as a political pawn. And again, Whalen, they should both be home. Now, as for Musk, again, credit where credit is due. He's right about this. And that's a good policy position. Now, where I can criticize Musk is, okay, if your position on marijuana is that, why the hell would you support Republicans? Why the hell would you support somebody like Ron DeSantis? They're not in favor of legalizing cannabis. Again, I guess to be fair, Joe Biden's had quite some time to also legalize marijuana, and he has refused to do so at this point. So I guess fair, but generally it tends to be Democrats that are more in favor of doing this than Republicans. So for Musk, again, this might be heartbreaking, and it kind of is. But here we have, I think, one of the worst people making a good point. All right. Well, let's move on. Another ghoul here. Aren't both parties in favor? Occam's taser is a good question. I think voters from both parties are in favor. But when I talk about the parties, I talk about the politicians, really, that supposedly represents them. Let this sink in. Jeff talks about releasing somebody who was convicted in Germany to get a stupid basketball. No, he wasn't convicted. He would, well, maybe he was, but he had murdered someone in Germany and is, I think, and it wasn't clear in the article that I had read that he was serving jail time or prison time in Germany. But obviously, if that were to be the case, you would have to negotiate with the German government in order to facilitate that. And so obviously it wouldn't just be unilaterally making the decision. You would have to deal with diplomacy, Chuck. So just to be fair on that. And of course, Germany could refuse to do that. All right. Anyway. Crying Rider. Oh, this is good. CPAC is currently underway in Dallas. Now, CPAC is featuring speeches from the likes of Senator Ted Cruz, Representative Marjorie Greene, and Steve Bannon, all winners. Yay, great. But there is a piece of performance art that's actually catching a lot of attention. And it features, and I'm not kidding, a fake prisoner sitting in a fake jail, fake crying. Freelance journalist Laura Jadid tweeted this, who covered CPAC, quote, "Hello, I would like to share with you the most astonishing thing I've ever seen. At the CPAC booth, you receive a silent disco headset that plays harrowing testimony from people arrested participating in J6. But instead of dancing, you stand around and watch this guy cry." What guy? Can't make this up. Irony is dead. It's just, it's not just that. It continues to get beaten. I cannot believe. I mean, if there wasn't video, I wouldn't be able to believe that this is a real thing. They took the crying rioter, stuff that I've made fun of. I make fun of crying rioters. You know why? Because I have no sympathy for them. Okay. And they took that and they said, "Oh, no. This is a good idea. Let's get the crying rioter. That's a great idea. Oh, yes." Who's going to get sympathy for that? Who's going to feel sorry for the people that literally broke into the Capitol building, smashed windows, smeared feces, apparently protected muffins? I don't know. And they did that, threatened the vice president, by the way. Hang my pants. All to help an unhinged lunatic attempt to end democracy in this country. Well, apparently we know the answer. Marjorie Greene and all the others, they're like, yeah, nailed it. Nailed it. Yes, we feel so bad for these people. Now, Jadid noted that in the 30-some minutes she had watched this man, he had never broken character. Oh, well, of course. At least you got some dedication there. In addition to weeping in various places, the man identified by investigative reporter Jordan Fisher as Brandon Straka, and you might have seen this, also tallied days on a chalkboard which read, "Where is everyone? Where are you?" So that's ironic in itself, because I'm going to give you some details on who Mr. Straka is. And you're going to love this. Now, Brandon Straka had founded the so-called walk-away movement. Okay, all right. Now, it's funny because he walked away from his friends. He was there on January 6th. He was a rioter. He was arrested, but did not serve, and I repeat, did not serve prison time in his case, thanks to, as his attorneys described it in their sentencing memo, substantial cooperation with investigators. This is the guy who narked on his friends in order to receive a lesser sentence or no sentence. Wow, you cannot make this up. They could have chose anyone, but they got the snitch. They got the guy who sold out his fellow rioters for no jail time, and then paid him to pretend that he cared about the other rioters. Oh, where are you? Save our fellow patriots that I sold out. Oh my God. If this is not the best example of the MAGA movement, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. Because we've seen this so many different times. All right. Social media, of course, had a field day about this. I'm going to show you a couple of the memes just for fun, right? Gotta love the memes. Here we go. This was posted on the thread. I'm sure you've probably seen this before. This is how it is to be a white conservative. In this case, white conservative woman. Perfect analogy because you're not a real target, or that's not a real target, and you put it there yourself. Another response to that was this, which is incredibly true. And then finally, here's another one. It's my favorite. Look at me. I am the snowflake now. I mean, you can't make it up. Fake crying in a fake jail for somebody who never even went to jail. I mean, what a clown show. Just a clown show. All right. Okay. So now, let's go to Wall Street here. Wow. The Dark Brandon memes. I'll have to check those out. All right. The Manchin-Schumer agreement, also known as the Inflation Reduction Act, just passed one of its bigger hurdles, which is Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Now, Sinema has just announced that she is willing to sign on to the bill if the Democrats had dropped a certain tax on private investment firms. And of course, what happened? We know they did. Because of course. Sinema announced on Thursday evening that Democrats have agreed to remove the carried interest tax provision. Now, that provision would have not entirely closed the carried interest loophole, but it would have slightly closed, just a tiny little bit, just a tiny crumb of, tax money coming from private equity firms. Now, this loophole, of course, has always allowed billionaires to pay a lower tax rate than average working people. So let me get to an article here from The Lever that said the proposal negotiated by Manchin and Schumer had actually rejected. This is before Sinema stepped in. The party's previous 2021 proposal to fully close the loophole, which would have generated $63 billion in savings. So now that was the original that would have closed it fully. That's how much money they would have gained from it. The new version, before Sinema stepped in, would have only accrued about $14 billion, which effectively preserved the majority of that tax break. But that was too much for Kyrsten Sinema, who is paid for by private equity firms. Now, Sinema, in the last 5 years, has received over $2.2 million in legal bribes, and just recently, $283,000 from the industry in the last cycle. Now, Chuck Schumer also has received about $1.2 million in campaign donations from that industry, from private equity in the last cycle. So now, as soon as Sinema comes in and says, well, I'm not comfortable with taxing private equity firms, well, Chuck Schumer says, okay, throw it overboard. There you go. Hey, there you go. All right, so now, look, they threw it out because, again, they serve the same donors. They both serve private equity. In fact, private equity has delivered $83 million in bribes to Democratic politicians and $62 million in legal bribes to Republicans at the federal level over the last 2 election cycles. Now, if you want to know who runs Congress, you just follow the money. It's the moneyed interests. It's the billionaires, the private equity firms. Now, if you're mainstream media, of course, you never talk about that. You never talk about the role of money in politics. You never talk about how that determines what actually gets through Congress. Now, corporate media, of course, put out fawning coverage of this deal. They claimed it would completely end the loophole. I've got two examples of that. On Wednesday, NPR compared the current carried interest language to a 2019 proposal that would have raised about $14 billion over a decade. Neglecting the 2021 proposal that was from Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, which would have raised the full $63 billion over a decade. And last week, Punchbowl News asserted that the Manchin-Schumer plan completely eliminated the carried interest loophole, which is not true. Punchbowl also wrote on Wednesday, perhaps the biggest question in the reconciliation process is whether the elimination of the carried interest loophole would make it through Congress. And of course, the answer, of course, was no, it didn't. Other changes to the bill so far involve the 15% minimum corporate tax. They amended that in order to give a carve out for manufacturers so they can save money. Now, interestingly enough, and I'm seeing this comment already. Okay, well, where's the funding going to come from? Because yes, there has to be enough funding for the $300 billion in deficit reduction that Joe Manchin has to have, or else he's going to walk away from the deal. So now we know where that comes from, and that actually is the bright side. So now Democrats decided to replace the loophole provision with an excise tax on corporate stock buybacks. Now, CNN's Manu Raju claims that this tax would bring in more revenue than the carried interest provision. And they did that, again, because if Manchin didn't have his $300 billion in deficit reduction, then he was going to walk. And of course, if the carried interest loophole was kept into place, then Sinema was going to walk. And so here we have a perfect example of special interest versus special interest. Remember, this is not about, and when we talk about, oh, it's Manchin, oh, it's versus Sinema, we're not actually talking about them. They're the faces. But really what we have is a competition between special interests, between industries. And all we're really referring to is the public face that they wear, the mask that they have on. Is it a Sinema mask or is it a Manchin mask? And so in this case, private equity does win, Wall Street wins, the manufacturers win, but people doing massive amounts of stock buybacks, they're not winning. So that's interesting. So now, all told, of course, the Chamber of Commerce is happy with just about all the provisions, except for the excise tax. Of course, they're not going to be happy about that. Sure. But yes, one last thing, by the way, and I think that's really important to note. This hasn't been voted on yet. Now, they're going to vote on this tomorrow. Now, that means there's still a chance for amendments to be brought up. There is still a chance for even this or some other provision to be stripped out or this bill tanked. And so there is a good possibility that even some of the other tax provisions, or I think more importantly, some of the climate change provisions could still be stripped out in order to make up for a shortfall. If, for example, if they reduce or eliminate the excise tax, then they would have to get rid of the equal amount of spending in order to continue to have the $300 billion in deficit reduction. Well, you strip that out, then it becomes even less of a climate bill and more of just corporate handouts for oil and gas companies. So, again, this could be bad because it's not over yet. And there is still a chance for this bill, which is already massively watered down, to end up getting worse. Yikes. Look, that's the situation. It's not great. It's pretty bleak. But, you know, that's what's going on. I'm just here to deliver the news. All right. Wow, that's all I got. That hour was fast. How about we spend 0 on the fossil fuel giveaways? Wouldn't that be great? I would hope that we would do that. But as I had said before, as much as I want that to happen, then it's never going anywhere. That's just the unfortunate, state of U.S. politics. Wholly controlled by the money. All right. Let's see. Everybody, please, can you like and share the stream if you haven't already? Very important that you do so. Do I have any info on the prescription drug part of it? So far, I haven't seen any changes to the prescription drug part, but it is much more, I should say it's limited for sure than it was before. And so a lot of that stuff had been stripped away, but there are still provisions out there. There are still drugs that will end up being able to get the price negotiated with. That said, I forgot to mention that that's another wrinkle here. Another wrinkle where you have pharmaceutical industry that's not happy with the prescription drug price changes. And so that's another industry that's fighting. Isn't there a provision of the bill that the oil industry gets about 2 million acres of federal land per year? And let's not forget, too, that in order to have developments of green energy or renewable energy built, you actually have to give that land over to oil companies first. They have to get first dibs. Can we do a shitbag of the week segment? Our Future Now asks. Well, look, it's hard to choose, but we do shitbags every day. So, I mean, every day. Every day's a new one. But I'll think about it. Okay. Let's see. All right. So, let's see. Any super chats here? Other ones. Mr. Shadow, thank you for the very kind $20. Really appreciate it. Super chat, nothing much to say. Just wanted to show some love. I feel it. Thank you. Progressives versus everyone else. Serious question. Do we even want this bill to pass? I mean, as it's written right now, there's still some good in it. There are still some, again, that the 15% corporate minimum tax, that's good. The excise tax and stock buybacks, that's good. The prescription drug pricing reform, that's, again, it's something. It is going to help people. Not enough people, I say. There is some significant climate investment, but unfortunately, there's also a lot of fossil fuel investment. What we're looking at here is, unfortunately, the best I think that we can get in this kind of corrupt Congress, which, again, that's really an indictment on Congress. It is really an indictment on our system overall. Seeing that this, which is not a great bill, not good, is still the best that we can do, because there will be some reduction in emissions. It's a sad, sad state of American politics. But as I said before, nothing good is ever going to get through Manchin without him getting some money in his hands. Feels like a fake victory for Biden. Oh, absolutely. But you know what? He and corporate media, they're going to run with it. Historic victory. Historic climate spending. No, I'm just telling you what's really in it. Okay. Anyway. Thank you all for joining me. Please try to have a good weekend. Get some rest, relaxation, and some mental, like a mental break, a mental palate cleanse, if you will, so we can come back next week and do the horror show all over again. All right. Thank you all. Oh, Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. I don't know if I got that in there yet, but thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Twitch. We're going to do a raid too, by the way. We'll do a search raid today. For everyone else, have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. And remember, change begins with you. Good night.
I will eat your ass. I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
With a Sharknado except for food.
There's insanity in the control room.
How you like that, boy?
Who's got a hammer?
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police. Fired! Fired!
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Bitch, move it along.